All right. Welcome to StereoPsych. I'm Stephen Downey. I'm a clinical psychologist from Australia. We do breakdowns of stuff we find on the internet, particularly Reddit at the moment. And so today we'll be looking through and finding it. I've just loaded this up. Looks like this is the first one that's not an update. So generally speaking, I try to make sure that I'm not just picking updates because I don't want to have to go and cover the original and then the updates. If over time we see updates of one that we've done before, maybe, but for now, just keeping it to fresh stuff. So we're up. I shall flick back. So anyway, um, as usual, feel free to submit stuff. If you want for me to review it, chuck it in the comments below the video. Under the video in the description, you'll see a link to, let me save this, link to the Reddit in question. So if you want to go and say your piece on it, you can have a go. Way that we do this is I'll read through it. Eventually, I'll be able to put timestamps in, so you're able to just skip past me reading it if you just want to rip into that. But for now, I'll read through it and then give you some thoughts. So, um, all right. Am I the asshole for cutting our MIL, mother-in-law, out of our lives after she sent a wedding invitation to our baby we lost? Right. I lost a baby in the second trimester. It was unbearably heartbreaking. I had to go in and deliver a baby that was gone, and on top of the grief I was battling, I had to explain and console my young child who wanted a sister so badly and kept asking why she went away. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were such assholes that weekend, acting like the loss and procedure wasn't a big deal, harassing my husband to come visit, and when he didn't, they showed up on our doorstep. It was a big fight, and both sides are still upset about that weekend. I have one of the birth flower bouquet prints on my wall. It has the birth flowers of the kids I now have and forget-me-nots for the baby we lost. My in-laws roll eyes, make faces, and make comments at it. And anytime I acknowledge the baby, we lost. Okay, yeah. My mother-in-law had made snarky comments to others anytime I include the memory of the baby we lost like that. We've fought with her about it. It's part of the reason we've been low contact. I just got a wedding invitation from a cousin on her side that we've not seen in years. It was for my husband, myself, and our three kids. I only have two living kids. A family member said that was weird because they know the cousin called my mother-in-law to ask how many kids we have since they didn't know, and it must have been a mistake. But another family member said she just knows she did that to hurt me. My mother-in-law says she loves to play the villain, especially with her, knowing her. And wow, this is poorly formatted. Okay. My mother-in-law says I'm assuming the cousin, loves to play the villain, especially with her being the mother-in-law, knowing her and what she's done in the past to be intentionally hurtful, and laugh while claiming she thought that's what we wanted. Hubs and I would bet money that she's over there smirking and waiting to say that she thought we wanted our dead baby acknowledged. We were waiting to go full no contact until after Mother's Day because mother-in-law's mum passed away last month, and I thought it would be too hurtful to her to have MD. I don't know what that means because Mother's Day, because without her mum, son, and grandkids. Would I be the asshole if I just went full on no contact now a week before? Update, we blocked her on everything. I told my husband I think we need to cut her out immediately. He said, let's do it. The air already feels easier to breathe. Okay. Um, right. So kicking on to the breakdown of this, just some free thoughts. Obviously, there's some rotten stuff going on in here. It's one thing to lose a baby. That sucks. It's a terrible thing. I've experienced that. It's sort of upended my life for a long time. Um, so I can understand where this person is coming from, particularly second trimester baby. You know, you've got the whole delivery involved, and you don't get to take the baby home. So yes, this is very rough. Now, the situation, as I understand it, is essentially so that's happened. Now, the in-laws have then sort of just said it's not a big deal. And you know what? So to some people, it's not a big deal. But you don't get to pick for somebody else whether or not it's a big deal. That's how it is. And so if it's a big deal to them, then it's a big deal to you. And if you want that relationship to persist, then constantly rubbing in their face that to you it's not a big deal is going to strain a relationship. And that's what we see over time. So we see people sort of having remembrance. And again, like this is a big deal to this person. you know, and they have acknowledgements around their house that are part of their grief processing to go, yep, this is the child that we don't have. Fair enough. No big dramas with that. Um, so then this has turned into an issue over time. Obviously, there's some issues in here regarding acting like the loss and procedure wasn't a big deal, harassing my husband to come visit. And when he didn't, they showed up on our doorstep. This sort of shows me there's a disconnect here. So it sounds like, to his credit, the husband sides with his wife on this stuff, which is good. Generally speaking, I want to see a couple, whatever the partnership is, the couple together as a unit against the world. Even if internally it's not like that, certainly the external facing front should be united. Otherwise, it sort of presents cracks that are exploitable by others. I think they've done a really good job here of presenting a united front. I don't know if behind this it truly is a united front, but I love to see in a situation like this that there is a united front, even with people as close as the in-laws. And it sounds like there's been, um, yeah, they have not. His parents, so the mother-in-law, has not really respected that transition appropriately at all. To now they're an independent unit. The idea of I don't like that you didn't come visit me, so I just show up in your doorstep sort of says to me there's a level of entitlement here that's something's off. Your children must owe you something because if they don't give you what you want, you can just turn up and take it. That's that's very problematic. So I've got lots of problems there. Um, the rest of this stuff is really sort of just around the grief processing of this person and what she's done. That's fine. The wedding thing is odd. There's a lot of reading into various people's behavior and stuff like that has to happen here for us to get to the same conclusion that she does. Right now, she knows her family. We don't. But when I'm looking at information that's missing, I would sort of go, I would be hard pressed to push somebody like, yes, no contact, if there actually is wiggle room here between, was it the mum? Was it the cousin? Has the cousin thrown the mum under the bus? Is the mum throwing the cousin under the bus? We don't know and we can't know. So this is going to boil down to what is it that you want to believe? That's a dangerous position to be in when you're already motivated in a direction. So I have an issue there, and I'd be sort of urging caution. Not a lack of response, but just caution, because there's a chance that we do take the wrong action out of this. So you got to think long term around these relationships. Now it sounds like this is a discussion that's been an open discussion between her and her husband, and they have been considering the long term thing to say, I don't actually think we want this person in our life, and they were waiting down here to go full no contact until after Mother's Day passed. Again, I find with a lot of these, some of the asshole ones is some of the people are going out of their way for people that don't deserve it. And I like to see it. It adds an element of humanity there that I think is pretty cool. Um, so they didn't want it to be, Mother's Day without her mum, son, and grandkids. Something that's actually missing here is the father-in-law. No, he was mentioned in here somewhere. So I'm assuming that he's just along for the ride. And again, I'd sort of want to go, this whole full no contact, does that include the father-in-law? And is that fair to him? Because we're missing that part of the information completely. And that's a discussion. Some people actually have very good relationship with one parent and not the other. So I'd want to discuss like what other relationships look like going forward? Or are you just treating them like a unit? In which case we need to at least consider what we stand to lose in the father-in-law in sort of throwing everything out to see whether or not there might actually be room for the father-in-law in their life if he so chose, potentially. It sounds like they've both got issues here, father-in-law and mother-in-law, but this is also, I don't know the previous relationship. I don't know this person's opinion. I don't know how long this sort of stuff has been going on. So that's information that I don't know that I would want to know. Here, update, we blocked her on everything. Told my husband I think I need to cut her out immediately. He said, let's do it. So the air already feels easier to breathe. When it comes to something like this is an approach that I would rarely push. There are times where it's appropriate. I'm not sure this is. the time, partially because it just leaves virtually no room for a reconciled relationship. I often find that these things can improve dramatically if you can put down proper boundaries, um, and really hold those firmly and let the other side, in this case, the mother-in-law specifically, realize that they only get to play the game when they sit within your boundaries. And outside of that, there is no game. We simply withdraw from the game, but we make it very clear that there is a boundaried path back into our life that if you respect the boundaries, you get to play. If you don't respect the boundaries, you don't get to play. That's all there is to it, you know. So what happens is we now have an opportunity for the relationship to improve over time versus a scorched earth policy that that makes things very difficult. So at this point, it could be that we have cut ourselves off not just from our mother, but also the father-in-law. We've sort of created more issues in terms of I don't know if there are siblings involved and stuff like that, and how you're going to navigate situations where everybody's going to be present and blah blah blah. I usually I go with a model around connection and frequency, right? So this is a model that I talk about with people very frequently. You think about what's the level of connection that you have to somebody, and it needs to match the frequency with which you interact with that person, right? Anytime there is a difference, right? So they need to be level. This isn't like a seesaw, right? They have to be level. And anytime there is a mismatch between the connection you feel with somebody and the amount that you have to do with them, there is distress, essentially. So again, if you just think about it, what are our options here? We love somebody a lot. We're very connected with them, but we don't get to see them very often. Distress is the gap. We really dislike somebody. We want to see them very, very little, but we actually have to see them a lot. Also did the things wrong before, but you know what I mean. We see them a lot, right? This actually no, sorry, that matches because it's level. I did it right before. So if we dislike somebody and see them a lot, I'm confusing myself here. I always think about it that it's not a seesaw, but maybe it is. Because normally I draw this, I've got like a pad and I get to sort of do that. But I'm not technologically proficient enough to do that. But basically, if I hate somebody but see them a lot, that's a problem, right? So that would be obviously my connection is very, very low, but my frequency is very, very high. There's a problem there. If I love somebody a lot, but I see them very little, big problems there. But we want it to match. If you love somebody a lot and see them a lot, that's fine. If you hate somebody a lot and never see them, that's fine. But we need this thing to match, right? And it seems here like there's a big misalignment in terms of the amount that they see them and the level of connection. So I would be urging a different approach where we sort of go, right, we're going to drop back to near zero connection, but with the aim to then dial it up slowly to find out to what degree can we tolerate things and still keep these people in our lives, but within boundaries. And maybe they come to respect boundaries, in which case our level of connection might improve, which would allow for a higher frequency and sort of take that approach. But it could be that we give them virtually nothing and they never really come to the party, in which case it just sits at a virtually non-existent frequency for a long period of time. I just find that to be a more helpful approach than the full cutoff here. But going back to the question of, I think I've already touched on what it is that I don't know that I would want to know, and that is sort of father-in-law stuff. What's gone on before this in terms of the relationship. Yeah, like because the water under the bridge becomes very important when we're starting to talk about future relationship, that kind of stuff. You know, and here, would I be the asshole if I just went full on no contact now? You don't know anybody, your time, attention, life, energy, or whatever. I don't care what their relationship is to them. I find that particularly in I want to say Western cultures of yeah, maybe this is a generic thing. This idea of because they're family, we just have to move on from whatever. It's not true. It's toxic and garbage. I think if you're not connected with somebody, you lower the frequency. I don't care what their level of relationship is to you. There might be some people that are not related at all, and therefore you can lower the frequency to zero with no intention of ever increasing it, and that have no consequence on your life. Um, but yeah, to sort of go, are you the asshole? No, this person's hurt you deeply around something which is very important to you. Yeah, I think you know, when it comes down to it, is your husband properly on your side? Like, this isn't going to cause a rift between you and him over time, given that this is his family. He's gone, let's do it. I love the level of supportiveness there, but I just think you want to communicate very clearly around, what is it that we're deciding here? Is this for a time? How are you going to go with this over time, given that this is your family and that kind of stuff? Just to make sure that the air is very clear between you two about what it is that you're doing for the future. Outside of that, yeah, I mean it's a rubbish situation. It's always, you know, um, when people downplay somebody else's grief because of their perception of how significant it should be, it creates crap like this. I'm somebody that deals in human pain for a living. And I have to say, and I believe you should be able to hold me to this over time, grief is the most painful kind of pain. All the other pains have different answers, but grief, there is no answer. The only way through it is through it. Um, it invariably causes horrible issues if you try to go around it in any way, and sort of prolonged grief just sucks. Um, but in terms of just raw human pain, grief is sort of it, because it's the most final of pains. Everything else you can work with, but grief, your only option is to come to terms with it. And so to have somebody else say to you, well, actually, it's just not significant to me, that doesn't matter. So, all right, we shall leave it there. I realize that I never expanded my camera, so I'm very tiny to you all, but that's okay. Mostly it's what we're talking about anyway. I'll try and remember to do that in the future. Again, dinosaur over here. Apologies. Guys, you take care. If you like it, hit the like button. If you want to see more like this, subscribe. And I'll be back to it, well, probably tomorrow, and getting into it. Take care, guys. Good to see you. Catch you.